Finance Minister is going to be presenting the budget later this month. Watching very closely will be Young India for a whole host of reasons. What is he planning on doing on education, jobs and of course skilling the nation as it were. We are joined by students from some of India's top institutions. Thanks all so much for taking out time, not being in those classes, but being here to talk about what you expect from the budget. And jobs, of course, being a key area of concern. What really is your one big expectation and one big challenge that you feel that the Finance Minister is going to have when we talk about jobs? Okay.
I think when Prime Minister Narendra Modi started his government, his basic, that one key point he focused was on democracy, demography and demand. And he said jobs are going to be the next important thing because we have a huge demand because of the demography. We have the youngsters that we have and a huge population that needs to be unleashed in order to achieve the growth. Because I see the institutions like ITIs are there, but they are not in the enrollment is not as much as it needs to be.
And the teaching also of course needs to be brought up to the mark. How many of you worry about the job scenario? Does anyone worry? What worries you?
Well, my expectation or worry would be that in India, I feel that the government should allocate considerable amount of its budget on the research and development sector because, okay, creation of jobs is happening, but we are lacking in providing a favorable environment for the budding innovation or innovators. People do have ideas, but they don't have enough financial fallback options.
Right. I feel in order to give so many people jobs, people should be motivated to create their own jobs as well. People should be encouraged to start up their own businesses, follow their own passions and build something of their own. I guess the FM should include startups majorly in its budget and should promote startups, help them getting funding, ease the norms of getting registered as a startup.
The whole ease of doing business in India and how poorly we fare. Let's try and move up on that. Yeah.
When we talk about the basic skill development, then why are we only talking about the, the corporate sector? Why don't we come back to the manufacturing sector or the handicraft sector or the basic, skill imparting?
Why leave anyone out?
Right. So we don't expect the, that strata of the economy to go up and take jobs in the corporate. So why not just provide them skills to, gain employment from their surrounding or their vicinity? Why not integrate entrepreneurship to it?
The most important thing that the finance minister can do is turn the vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle by creating more jobs, and the more jobs means there will be more demand, and again there will be more products, and again so this will translate into more jobs again.
So jobs basically, whether you skill us, educate us better, more jobs. At the end of the day, employment of course being the key concern, even if you want to sort of start out on your own in the areas like you said that one needs to focus on.
In terms of focusing on broader points, now we see that NPA has been a menace in the banking sector, and a lot of banks are forced to report high losses related to the asset quality review that the Reserve Bank has stipulated. Now, in terms of the various schemes that Reserve Bank has brought out, none of the schemes that it has brought out actually involve the promoters to accept the stake that they have committed mistakes. Now, if we see some of the major companies like Kingfisher or SR Steel, which have huge amounts of debt, they have been strategically refinanced or gone into the 5/25 rule. But none of the promoters have put in more money into the business to revive it. So when the times are bad, the banks are forced to take the hit. But when the times are good, the government is letting the promoters take the money. So let's make some reforms.
That's an important point. We'll get someone who's not spoken.
If we see in the Indian universities, there's no Indian university in the top 100 universities in the world. So we are definitely lagging in the quality of education that is provided.
A few have sort of every now and then managed to come in. IIT Delhi, of course.
Currently there is no one. So if we see, there are two basic reasons for that. One of them is the student-faculty ratio, which is very less, and the other being the amount of allotment of the budget to the research and development. So if we see a professor who has been teaching for 20 years and a student who has just passed out from college, he gets more salary than that professor. So incentives should be provided to that professor.
That's a super point. That's actually a super point also, because usually when we tend to ask a room full of students on how many want to get into teaching, very few raise their hands. How many want to get into teaching? And that's understandable. Why don't you want to get into teaching? Is it the remuneration, which is a very fair point?
To some extent, it is the reason for it, and at the same time, I want to get into the corporate world and
Sure.
I would like to add upon that one of my colleagues said that innovation and startup should be there among the students. Yes, there are many students and young minds who have got innovation and new ideas, but basically when does the worry of job come to these persons is that they start doing their research and innovated, but now suppose today I started up, after some time I lose my resources, they get exhausted, then I don't have anything to
Fall back upon.
yeah,
Right,
so that
right.
time it comes on the worry of job for me.
Right.
So this is
That
where
it's okay if I want to start up, but I need a plan B.
This is-
Because what if it doesn't work? And
this is
you
where
always
the essence of innovation is being diluted.
Right, you
So they
always-
will turn upon their decision.
Right, you do need a plan B. Always good to have a plan B, they say.
Yeah, so here we are talking a lot about innovation and all, but India as a society, as a culture is very different because the risk-taking appetite here in our culture is very less.
Do you think
We-
that that's changing?
Yeah,
With
that
people of
is
your
what I mean.
generation especially.
Yeah, it is changing,
Yeah.
but you know, it's still there that by 25 I need to have a stable job, by 27 I need to get married. It's
Right.
still there.
Right.
So the government needs to promote that risk-taking appetite. It needs to give certain options to the people. Like a lot of campuses today have these deferred placements,
Placements, right,
kind of thing
right.
that
Like
you
go
can
try
come
it
after-
out, come back and finish
so
this.
Yeah.
Right.
So we need to create more such options to
Right.
you know inculcate that risk
Right.
taking appetite in people.
Right. That's a very good point.
What the finance minister can do to increase the tax base in the country is a really important issue. The fact that only 3 to 4% of the population is paying taxes currently is a bit of a worry.
Find a
So-
way to rope them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we already discussed, jobs and education are very important, but I think the key focus of this budget should be on agriculture, which the government has neglected so far. Like we're focusing on the manufacturing sector and the service sector, but majority of Indian population is still dependent on agriculture, and I think the government has finally realized that agriculture is pulling down the GDP. You know, with the past 2 years of like low rainfall and everything, so the farmers should be given more incentives, and they too need to undergo like skill development even further. The rural population, or the Skill India, the whole initiative should be extended to the rural population as well.
As the government has constraints of resources and every finance minister has to tackle that, I think we should bring in innovative ideas for the problems we are facing. Like in education sector, there are many Indian professors teaching in foreign universities and they all want to come to India for a few months in a year. We can bring them and ask them to deliver guest lectures for a few 3 or 4 months every year, so that their experience can be utilized by Indian students, as well as my friend pointed out, that only 25% of the graduates are employable. So the government should start an internship program for them to go back to their community and teach in their primary schools for at least an year, so that they can develop their skill sets in those times, and as well as they can contribute towards the society.
Would you be okay in doing that?
Yeah, I would be okay in doing that. I have been working for an NGO for 3 years, and
I think this is why the thread of social entrepreneurship and doing your bit and coming up with those ideas, and sort of also instead of sitting back and just expecting change and asking for what you want, it's time perhaps to take the plunge and try and sort of back up these efforts. Yes.
All right. If I can take the topic to the education, higher education part. So one thing I'd ask the FM to do is, if I've been given a chance, I'd like to talk about how many students would like to get into higher education, but because of a lack of financial resources, they don't do that. So one aspect which could be looked at is giving them loans at lower interest rates, or extending the payback period, like saying after they complete their education would also be a better option. I know the issue of NPS would crop up immediately because of that, but we are actually by giving.
You have to find a way around it, because there are all those who want to, who ought to, who are deserving, and of course this is a sort of unfortunate situation or circumstance that holds them back. I'm completely out of time, but last quick words. We'll end on a lighter note. If you were FM for a day, what would you do?
I would change the face of the government primary schools.
Okay.
I would improve the quality of education imparted in the senior secondary level of schooling.
Okay.
I would focus more on agriculture because that is our backbone.
Well, I would focus on institutes strengthening, such as institutes like Reserve Bank of India and Securities and Exchange Board of India.
Okay.
I would probably take my campaigns and policies deeper into the roots rather than only having it on the surface.
Okay.
One word: GST.
Okay.
No government registration for any vehicle, land or any resources purchased on cash. Everything through online transaction, and that is taxed.
Right, make it transparent.
Primary concern will be first education and second agriculture sector.
Okay, completely out now. Yes.
I would focus on infrastructure and logistics to develop in the grassroots in rural India.
Okay, last word, and you will get the last word.
More vocational courses to increase employability.
Right. So, just to sum it up, it's education, it's skilling, it's what we need to do to change the face of India, as it were. Look at the farm sector, look at how we need to skill all those who need it, and of course jobs being the overriding concerns that young India has. Well, this is of course going to be our big focus in days ahead as the Finance Minister presents his budget. Thanks so much for watching. It's a wrap from all of us. Goodbye.